Okay, thank you everybody for being here this morning. This is a very exciting day. My name is Bolaños, Scow, and I am running for Congress here in our beautiful 20th district.
Woo!
As you know, that includes Monterey County, San Benito County, most of Santa Cruz County, and Gilroy. We have some major problems that we need to solve. I'm going to talk about those in just a second, but first I want to tell you a little bit about myself and how I came to this decision. On the Bolaños side, my grandfather came here from Oaxaca, Mexico in the 1940s. He was a bracero farm worker who worked in Watsonville, the Salinas Valley. He got sick from pesticides and was able to find a partnership with a farmer in Fresno, California. In 1959, he brought my mother, my grandmother, and my aunts and uncle from Oaxaca, Mexico to Fresno, where he then went on to establish a business as a gardener. He was able to provide for his family. My aunts and uncle, they went to college. He bought them all a car, and they all got an education.
He did.
On my father's side, on the Scow side, my grandfather, Robert Scow, graduated from Avenel High School. He went to UC Berkeley, then he went to the University of California, San Francisco Medical School, where he met my grandmother, who was en route to becoming a nurse. After that, they met in San Francisco. After that, he got a job at the National Institutes of Health, where he went on to study medicine for 20-30 years in Maryland. So my father left Maryland, came to California, and he met my mother at an outdoor science education camp near Kings Canyon National Park called SciCon. They got married, they had me, so I was raised in Fresno County, and they got me involved in community affairs and politics. That's just what we did. We would go to city council meetings, and we'd have discussions about how to make government really work for the people. So in high school, I was working phone banks, walking canvases. A family friend of ours ran for Congress, and I learned a lot, and I had a really good time. And I realized that working in public service and in politics was going to be something for a lifetime. I went to UC Berkeley. I studied political science. After that, I went to Washington, D.C. I had a fellowship looking at budget issues. They said, "Oh, you're from Fresno. We want you to look at water and agricultural policy," which actually wasn't at the forefront of my mind at that time. But pretty soon I became fascinated, because if you think, besides raising a budget and debating on how to spend that money, one of the most critical functions of government, an equally critical function is how to manage our water, especially in a state like California, where we have droughts, management problems, and pollution problems. So I became quickly excited about the water work. I landed a job with Food and Water Watch. I became their first California employee, and we began fighting for public water and to stop water privatization. I was there for 13 years. I became the California director. I learned a lot, and in that time, I was able to meet so many of you and do so much work here on the Central Coast. In 2008, I worked with the citizens of Felton Flow, Friends of Locally Owned Water, to kick out California American Private Water Company and win public local control of that water system. In 2012, I worked with residents in Santa Cruz to win the public's right to vote on a proposed desalination plant. That succeeded, and it led to a more affordable and more sustainable water supply for Santa Cruz. In 2014, I worked on 2 fracking bans. I worked with the Santa Cruz County Supervisors to unanimously pass a ban on fracking and all oil development in Santa Cruz. And later that fall, I worked with community leaders in San Benito County to pass Measure J. Measure J banned fracking and all new oil wells in San Benito County. We overcame over $2 million spent by the oil industry after the oil industry proposed putting an oil development right by our beautiful Pinnacles National Park. And so that was a very big win. In 2016, we took it to Monterey County. Monterey County, the 6th largest oil producing county in California. The challenge was greater. We built a coalition. People really said we couldn't do it there. They spent almost $6 million to beat us, and lo and behold, we won.
Woo! Yeah!
This was a big win because it was the first fracking ban in a major oil-producing county in the United States, and that is exactly what we need to do more of. We need to ban fracking everywhere.
Yeah.
And finally, finally in 2018, I was very honored to assist the residents of the Monterey Peninsula and Public Water Now in achieving a major victory. After 30-40 years of suffering from private ownership and several attempts, we overcame the hump, and we overcame $3 million from California American Water Company and passed Measure J to begin a process to bring public local ownership to the water system in the Monterey Peninsula. It's very, very exciting. So this year, an opportunity arose to join Public Water Now and help finish the job. Together we are working to defeat a proposed privatized desalination plant that would destroy groundwater in Marina. We are organizing, gearing up for a major decision at the Coastal Commission on November 14th. We encourage you to join us to be there if you can. It's a very, very important battle. And at the same time, we were having discussions with many of the community leaders saying, we really need to change our politics if we're going to survive this climate crisis that we're facing. And we started having conversations, and we realized now is the time to mount a campaign to bring new leadership to our region and to our Congress, because the same old politics isn't solving our problems. So let's talk about the issues and why we're running. There's two big crises that we're facing in our region, in our district, and here in our country. We have an affordability crisis, and we have an environmental climate crisis. Let's just talk about the affordability crisis for just a second. It is getting very, very expensive to live in our district. Many people are barely making ends meet. Median home price in Santa Cruz is over $900,000. In Watsonville, it's around $700,000. In Salinas, it's passing $500,000. Rents are doubling in some cases. Families are crowding together here in Watsonville, in Seaside, and Salinas. And the bills are also going up. So people are really struggling, and some people are already leaving. Our teachers, we have a teacher shortage because teachers can't make enough money to make ends meet. Yeah. Starting teacher salary here in Watsonville, in the $40,000 range. True in Salinas. Santa Cruz, $55,000. Some districts, they have to hire 100 new teachers because teachers are leaving. They just can't make it work, and that is coming at a cost and disservice to our students. So we have to tackle the affordability crisis, and one of the ways we have to do it is to bring our federal tax dollars back. Ever since the 1980s, President Reagan slashed budgets, and he got the federal government out of funding local government, and we have been paying the price ever since. So this campaign is saying it's time to get our federal tax dollars back in our communities, because if the private sector will not build housing that the majority of us can afford, then the government has to step up and do it.
Yeah.
Let me just say, we are overdue for Medicare for all. We have homelessness in our district. We have estimated about 5,000 people homeless. Many of those people have gone bankrupt because of medical debt. I've had family members accrue medical debt. We are way overdue. Even President Nixon was in favor of some sort of single-payer health coverage. So we talk about incrementalism. It is time to bring Medicare for all to cover all people, to give people preserved doctor choice, to have a public insurance system that cuts out the middleman and really starts prioritizing health care for all of our people. Way overdue. We have over 20 million people, maybe 30 million people who do not have any health insurance in this country, and that's got to change. And finally, we got to bring back tuition-free education.
Yeah. Let's hear it.
One of our volunteers, a young woman from Marina, she graduated from the University of California, Santa Cruz, and she told me she felt lucky that she only graduated with $20,000 worth of debt. 22 years old, we're punishing our children who are trying to get an education so they can contribute to our society. And it's becoming a de facto form of privatizing public education. My grandfather went to UC Berkeley tuition free. My mother went to Fresno State tuition free. Many of your parents and grandparents went to the University of California, basically tuition free. So we're going to bring that back, and that's a matter of priorities, and it's got to be at the top of our list.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the climate crisis. The climate crisis threatens our lives as we know it. We're talking about water shortages, crop failures. We're talking about rising ocean temperatures and dying marine life in beautiful Monterey Bay. We are talking about the threat of a very intense fire that could kill people and destroy our property. So my aunt last year lost her home in the campfire in Paradise because PG&E, a private utility, has mismanaged its system, and because of their negligence, an entire town was destroyed. So when we say it is time to pass a Green New Deal, that is exactly the reason why, because we need to build local clean energy grids that are renewably powered, that can support each other. We need to bring clean transit to our region. We have a traffic nightmare every day on our highways and every highway in this district. We need to bring smart planning to our district. We have people moving farther and farther away from where they work and live. And we are not going to solve the climate crisis until we make a commitment to get our country off of fossil fuels. So that is why we are supporting supporting a Green New Deal that says we are going to get to 100% renewable energy by 2030.
Yeah.
And that has to be a mandate, and we need to treat that like a security crisis that it is, and we're going to make it happen, and we're going to put millions of people to work to build the infrastructure we need.
Yep.
Last thing I want to talk about today is we have a moral disgrace going on in our fields. As I mentioned, my grandfather was a farm worker, and while he had brutal labor conditions, even he wasn't living in fear about deportation all the time. Most of our farm workers are undocumented. They are trapped in a system that was worsened by NAFTA, signed by Clinton in 1994. And it is time that we bring back a path to citizenship and residency for our farm workers. It's long overdue. We have farm workers who are picking our food, who barely have enough money themselves to buy food, and they're afraid to go to the food bank because of fear of being deported by ICE. I see no need for the agency ICE as it exists right now. We need to reform that agency, get rid of it, change its mission, because all I can see that it's doing is mainly harassing our people. They're not going to deport the farm workers who are picking our food. The growers need them. In fact, sometimes we have a labor shortage. So this is just harassment, and we got to stop that and put an end to it. Last thing I want to say.
Yay, done.
Last thing I want to say is that we have a political system, a campaign finance system that is corrupt and built on legalized bribery. We are not going to take any corporate money in this campaign because that's wrong, and it's compromising, and we want to set a model similar to how Senator Sanders and Senator Warren are doing at a national level. That's how we're going to do it here. We have too many Democrats taking corporate money and then telling us the policies that we need are infeasible. Well, that's curious. That's very interesting to hear when we have Democrats say Medicare for all is infeasible, we can't get off oil and gas. Well, maybe it's infeasible because you're taking their money. So we're not going to do that. We are going to be powered by the people, real issues. Our website is adamscow.org. This is an invitation. This is not a me campaign. This is going to be a we campaign. We're going to win this together. We're going to go to March 3rd, and then we're going to go to November 2020. We're going to have a new president, and I look forward to working with you. Thank you.